Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome to my video for the most recent Ellen Hutson release. I'm going to be working with two of the products from the release. It's called Spa Day. It's a set of stamps that are so cute, and also it comes with some coordinating dies. So I'm going to start by taking the girl with the towel on her head, and I'm going to center it toward the left on a piece of Nina Solar White cardstock. This is just an A2 size, and I'm going to stamp it in Memento Tuxedo Black ink because I'm going to be coloring it with Copic markers. So I'm going to start by coloring her towel, and I'm going to texturize that. So that's why I'm going to color this first and let it dry for a few minutes. So I'm starting with my RV14. It's just a dark pink, and I colored all the shadow areas with this color. And now I'm taking my RV13 and I'm coloring over the edge of that RV14, and I'm also adding some shadow area to the right. So I always use my darkest color on the left and then my medium color on the right edge. And that's because my light is usually coming from, the way I do it, over my right shoulder. And so I'm going to get a darker shadow on the left than I will on the right. And so now I'm just filling it all in with the RV10. And now I'm going to take RV19. This is just an even darker pink color, and I'm going to do a very, very thin line in the deepest part of the shadow areas, and this is going to really make this towel look dimensional. You can see it already starting to look dimensional just by adding this dark color just on the edge. And after I finish adding this RV19, I'm going to go through all my colors. I'm doing it really fast here, but I'm just going through the whole sequence just to make sure everything blends. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the towel that she's wearing. I'm going to do the RV14 first, then the 13, then the 10, and then I'm going to go back in with that RV19 last and just put a few dots of color here and there, and that's what makes it pop, and then just blend it in with the rest of the colors one more time. Now I'm going to texturize this, but I want it to dry first because you'll get the best effect if you let it dry first before you apply the colorless blender. Okay, so I have two pieces of 1 1/4 inch by 5 1/2 inch Nina cardstock, and I'm going to ink this up with some tumbled glass distress ink. You could just use some solid colored cardstock if you want to. I really love the distress tumbled glass. It's my favorite blue ink. It's just a nice little light blue. I don't want to distract, and I'm going to be stamping on it as well, so I don't want it to be too bright. Next, I'm going to get some surgical tape ready. It's just some thin paper tape, and I'm going to take my tumbled glass pieces. I'm going to place one at the top carefully right along the edge. I'll tape that down so it doesn't move, and then I'm going to put the bottom one at the bottom edge, and I'm going to tape that down so it doesn't move. Then I'll take my die that coordinates with this girl, and I'll put it on top of my tumbled glass pieces, and I'm going to take off the surgical tape and put it on the die so that it's just touching the die and the tumbled glass. And then I'll grab my plate, my acrylic plate, and I'll just slide the white part out from beneath it, and then I'll run that through my Big Shot machine. And when I do that, you'll see that it cuts out perfectly when I place it over here right above the head and right below the bottom of the girl, and that way I can pop those pieces up and give it a little bit of dimension. So now I'm going to texturize. Now I have a piece of fabric. This is terry cloth. You could use any textured fabric that you have, and this is some colorless blender that I've put in a mini mister. I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to spritz it probably like 3 or 4 times or so. Get a pretty good amount on there, and then I'm going to put it directly on top of the towel. I'm going to hold this down for maybe 5 or 6 seconds, and then I'll pick it up. So now you can see why I colored the towel first and let it dry. I'm going to color the rest later because I only want the towel to be textured. So I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. I just added maybe one more spritz to it. Press it down for 5 or 6 seconds, and I'm going to lift it up here. It works almost immediately. You can see the texture from the terry cloth is now on the towel on the cardstock. So I'm going to take my tumbled glass pieces and stamp them with this cucumber all the way across the edge, and I'm going to turn it a little bit each time I stamp it so it doesn't look like it's the same stamp. And I'm using my Hero Arts dye ink, and I just wanted a dark green, so I'm going to do that all along the top, and then I'll do the same thing on the bottom piece. I'm just going to start where I can get my first full cucumber. I'm going to line it all the way along the right and the left, and if it hangs off the edge, it's no big deal. I want the inside of my cucumbers to be light green, so I'm going to take my Twisted Citron marker, the brush tip, and I'm just going to color them in quickly. And the Hero Arts ink didn't bleed at all, and the Twisted Citron marker did a really good job of covering over the tumbled glass. I was really happy with the way that that looked. And then finally, the final detail is a white gel pen, and I'm just going over the lines of the cucumber to make it pop. I'm not covering all of the dark green, I'm just covering part of the dark green, so you can see it a little bit behind the gel pen. And I'm going to do this on all the cucumbers on both of the border pieces. I realized I forgot to stamp the mask on this girl, so I'm going to do that quickly with some Memento ink. And then I'm going to finish up my coloring. For her skin, I'm going to use E30. I'm going to cover most of it, a little bit on the left and then mostly to the right with the E30. And then I'll take my E00. This color is a little bit pinker than the E30. So I'm going to cover the rest of it like to the right and then cover over the E30 to make sure that I get that kind of same pinkish hue. I decided I wanted to add a little bit more shadow, so I took an E31, which is pretty dark, so you want to be careful when you're doing skin, and I just added a touch of the dark in the shadow area, so right underneath the towel where the towel kind of overlaps, and just to the left on her body and underneath her chin. And then I just blended everything back out with the rest of the marker so that it all blended together. And then for the mask, I'm using G00. It's like a minty green color. I'm not doing any shading, it's just this single color, and I'm gonna color the whole thing in with just this one marker. That will complete my coloring, so I'm gonna move on to the sentiment. I'm gonna use my Misty. I'm gonna put my top and bottom border pieces in place so I know exactly where to put my sentiment. And then once I get that positioned, I can remove the border pieces and put the lid down and ink it up. I'm going to use some Hero Arts black ink. It's one of my favorite inks. It's really, really dark. And so I'll press that down to get my sentiment. And then I can add my border pieces. So I'm just going to take some Scotch foam tape. It's a 1/2 inch wide. I usually just rip off my pieces because it's fast and easy. So I'll put a few pieces down and take the release backing off, and I'll put my top one on. And then I'll do the same thing for the bottom. And then I'll take this whole panel and I'll put some ATG tape runner on the back and adhere it to a Nina Solar white piece of cardstock, a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, just an A2 size. And that completes my card for the blog hop. Such a cute set, and I really enjoyed making it. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.